Good morning, Vikrita.
Good morning, Ellie. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, hanging in there.
I hear you. Okay. So we're live. Let's go ahead and share this.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay,
How's
there we
everyone doing today?
We get a lot of Spanish speakers, or we get a lot of Spanish comments, but I think after the lives, because I know everybody's probably at work right now. Si tienen preguntas en español, las pueden poner también. Um, you guys can post in Spanish or in English. So we'll be going over the questions. Um, we have Ricky. Ricky Ticky Tabby.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everyone out there doing today? Hope everyone has a great day so far. Um, my name is Decreta. I'm the caseworker here at Dreamers Together, and I have my teammate Ellie, Elizabeth Royas, accredited representative here at Dreamers Together. We're going to be answering some general AOS questions as we do. Just please keep any DACA related questions in the DACA group. So we have Ricky Tiki Tavi. Hi, Ricky. I'm doing AOS after AP. Have there been any issues doing that from what you've heard recently? Um, this is a question I'm sure a lot of individuals are asking. There's a lot of fear out there. Um, with our cases, we have not had any issues, you know, as of yet. Okay. Um, we don't know if anything's had any issues with our individuals going to their AOS interviews. Just please keep in mind that if you are concerned or if you have any underlying issues, then definitely, consult with an attorney and take an attorney with you.
I think one of the biggest things just to add that to that fee is that make sure that you know absolutely everything that is on your immigration history. You don't want to you don't want to come up with it, or you don't want to go to the interview and that officer tell you, "Hey, did you know that you have an order of deportation?" This is something that you want to know before you attend this interview. Very important. I will say it, not everybody is going to be able to do their adjustment of status process on their own. Unfortunately, with this administration, not every case is going to be straightforward. Not every case is going to be I'm going to do it on my own and not have any issues. There may be some instances where you need an attorney, and I understand attorneys can be expensive, but with this administration, it's something that it's going to be well worth it. We have been seeing, like you say, a lot of, there's a lot of fear out there. Have we seen on the news that people are being detained when they attend these interviews? We have. Are they our clients? We've not had any issues with our clients, but that doesn't necessarily mean that
Correct.
because we haven't had any issues, you, by being in the Facebook group or by following us, are not going to have any issues either. So, um, we have that attorney list, right, V?
Yes, we do. It's in our AOS Facebook group. And again, we have not had any issues with our AOS cases so far, but we don't know. We cannot guarantee that we're not going to. So, if you have anything to be concerned about, or like Ellie said, make sure that, before you go to these interviews, you don't have any surprises pop up, such as a deportation order or any other underlying conditions or any arrests or anything like that. Um, so I hope that answers your question, Ricky.
When in doubt, run a FOIA. FOIAs can take long to
Yes.
come back, but if if there's any question of what's in your immigration history, what's on your immigration history, you want to run that for you. You want to continue to renew DACA. And
Yes.
we're not going to talk a lot about DACA renewals for this life, but one thing that I continue to see is that people are waiting too long to apply for their DACA renewal and they're not getting it on time. Right now is not the time to go without having DACA. Okay, so if you're one of our clients, one of our AOS clients,
Please.
we're going to let you know, hey, you have DACA. Yes, you're in the process. You still need to continue to have DACA until you have that green card in your hand. Make sure that you're renewing 6 months, at least very bare minimum is 6 months. Now, Attorney Charles Cook has said that we can do it up to 1 year in advance.
Very, very important. Just because you have a pending green card case does not mean that 100% you might end up with a green card in time before your DACA expires, or if God forbid issues come up. So please make sure you're renewing your DACA.
Hmm.
All right, Ellie, we have something here from Adi.
Okay, Addie, it says, can we still apply for advanced parole? Yes, you if you have a reason to apply for AP, we're still encouraging everybody to do so.
Let's
Now, will you have any issues traveling? We won't be able to tell you 100% sure. 100%, we're not 100% sure. And the reason I say we're not 100% sure is because with the past administration, we've never seen anybody, even with a criminal history or criminal background, have any issues. With this administration, are they playing by the rules? No, they are not playing by the rules. So if you have a criminal history, this is something that you may want to consult an attorney with to see if they advise you to travel with a criminal history or not. Again, unfortunately, right now, we don't live in a perfect world and they're not really playing by the rules. In the past, we've done advanced paroles for all type of different cases, never had issues at all. No one has ever had issues coming back in, none of our clients. But again, with this current administration, if you have a criminal background, criminal history, it's something that you want to check with an attorney. Um, but for AP or DACA questions, we do encourage everyone to go to our sister page, DACA / Dreamers Together Official, and ask there, okay? But if you have everything you know in order, no criminal history, you should be fine to do advanced pro travel and come back. Okay. Ricky has another question, Fee Credit.
That was my next question. I submitted my DACA renewal. I was wondering if it would create any issues if I'm also submitting AOS, but that answer is no. Ellie, we're still seeing the RFEs being issued for the exemptions to the I-864, right?
Yes, I actually got lucky and I have one case that did not get it. But
Mhm.
I'm still going to say that for anybody that wants to get rid of that RFE completely, don't send the RFE even if you have the 40 credits. I think you mentioned to me that you got a few, right?
Yeah, I got a few of them approved with no issues. They accepted the exemption, and then I did get a few RFEs. Now, the good news about that is once I responded to those RFEs, the individuals did get their interviews and they just got their green cards. So, you guys know, any of my clients that are watching, um, if we did bump into an RFE because they were, requesting the I-864, but we had submitted the exemption, please reach out, in our Facebook group and let them know, hey, I was one of the individuals that did get an RFE because they wanted the I-864 and I asked for the exemption, but I was successful. We, we answered the RFE response. We submitted the SSA statement. We submitted an addendum and just a cover letter in the USCIS portal. And they got their interview and they got their green cards. So a few of you know who you are. Reach out to the rest of the family in our AOS Facebook group and let them know. I was an individual that did get the RFE because I asked for the exemption on the I-45, but we resubmitted the SSA statement, the addendum, the cover letter. I got my interview. Let us know how your interview went, and let us know that you did get your green card. So don't be alarmed if you do get an RFE. answer that RFE, and obviously make sure you have the 10 years and the 40 credits. You will get an interview, and hopefully all goes well, okay? So we did have some successful cases where the individuals were RFE'd because they asked for the exemption on the I-485. We answered that by submitting the SSA statement and addendum and then cover letter in their USCIS portal. They got their interview and they just got their green card. So if any of you want to help the rest of our family out, any of my clients, just, reach out in the Facebook group and let them know, but, that you were indeed one of those who did get the RFE for asking for the exemption. And we were successful. So don't be alarmed. Just please make sure that you do have those 10 years and the 40 credits. And again, like Ellie said, if you want to avoid that, obviously have the petitioner file the traditional 864 with all the paperwork that comes along with it. And if your petitioner does not make enough, combine with the beneficiary, with the intending immigrant. And if that doesn't work, just get a joint sponsor. Now, there's a couple of ways to do it, but I understand because for some individuals, they have a hard time looking for a joint sponsor, or, combining incomes, they still don't make enough. So they do want to, proceed with the 10 years and the 40 credits. And believe it or not, some individuals are like, I'm willing to take that risk because why? Me and my spouse right now, we don't make enough together, or I can't find a joint sponsor, but I have the 10 years and the 40 credits. So in those cases, they understand, that we may get an RFE, so they want to do it. They want to take that route. But if you want to, obviously, like Ali said earlier, if you want to avoid an RFE, just take the traditional 864 route. Even though it's more paperwork, it just, gives us less of a chance of getting an RFE. For the individuals that don't have that option of combining with their spouse or a joint sponsor, they use their 10 years and their 40 credits to ask for the exemption, and they understand that we may get an RFE, and they understand that we may have to answer that RFE. So you have a few ways to do this, but you have to understand that, yes, you do run the risk of getting an RFE if you ask for the exemption. But if you qualify, you know, go back and answer and let them know that you qualified. You know, just make sure
Hmm.
you qualify. That is the secret here.
And remember, we're talking about the 40 credits. You can find out you as the beneficiary, the intended immigrant, the person that's going to be getting the benefit of the green card. We're not talking about the citizen,
Hmm.
spouse, or citizen child. We're not talking about their 40 credits because I've seen a lot of confusion where they say, my spouse, which is the citizen, has the 40 credits. We're not talking about their 40 credits. We're talking about your credits as the intended immigrant, as the beneficiary, as the person
Yes.
that's going to be getting the green card. That's whose credits they want to see. How do you get 40 credits? By paying into Social Security. You get one credit for every quarter worked. So if you haven't worked or you've been unemployed for a few years, you may not have the 40 credits. How do you check how many credits you have? Make an account at ssa.gov. One credit per every quarter, 4 quarters in a year, that's 10 years of work history. So if you know that you haven't worked at least 10 years with DACA, you won't have the 40 credits, okay? And whenever we do the consultations, this is one of the questions that we ask. And we can I can kind of determine, I got DACA the first time in 2015,
Yes.
2016. I can kind of determine you don't have the 40 credits. I was in school. I didn't work the first 4 years of DACA. You probably wouldn't have the 40 credits, but we always do want to
Correct.
see the statement. So again, if you can get away from the 40 credits, do the I-864. The I-864 has to be completed by the petition and sponsor, the person that's completing this petition. This is the citizen's spouse or the citizen child. And we actually do have a tutorial on YouTube. It's outdated because the form was outdated, or the form has been outdated from the last time that this tutorial was made, but all the information is still relevant. The I-864 gets a lot of people RFEs. And you want to make sure that you complete it correctly. Let's talk about the tax return transcripts because that's a whole different series of questions. What documents do you need to send with the I-864?
Okay, so the petitioner obviously is going to fill the I-864 out. And in this scenario, let's just assume that he makes enough to cover his, intending immigrant child or spouse. I'm sorry, intending immigrant, the parent or the spouse. Um, the petitioner needs to submit um, a U.S. ID or a birth certificate, proving that they're a U.S. citizen. Or it could be also um, other documents if you don't have, obviously, the birth certificate. You can use the U.S. passport, but something to prove that you are a U.S. citizen. The petitioner will need to also submit the tax return transcripts. Now, on the irs.gov website, they changed them. They no longer say just tax return transcripts. They say like tax return 1040 transcripts or something like that. Along with the proof of U.S. citizenship and the tax return transcripts, the petitioner is also going to need to submit um, the W-2s to that year and the most recent pay stubs. So it's the petitioner's birth certificate or U.S. passport, the petitioner's um, the petitioner's tax return transcripts, the petitioner's W-2s, and the petitioner's most recent pay stubs to prove how much they are currently going to make in 2025. Okay. Um, I've had instances where people ask, "Oh, well, why don't you just go off of the petitioner's W-2 and just put that number in of how much he's, expected to make for 2025?" No, we go up off of the pay stubs that we submit to USCIS, and we let them know, listen, based off of these pay stubs, this petitioner is going to make this amount of money in 2025, current individual income.
Right. And sometimes it can happen that they're either going to make more or they're going to make less. So, as accredited reps and as caseworkers, when we're dealing with a case, and all of this is why we take cases, okay? Because it's not only we're going to fill it out, it's we have to look at every single detail, and looking at every single detail takes time. So, this is,
Yes.
why, if you don't want to do it on your own, this is why you would hire Dreamers Together to represent you, because it's not a we're going to do this in 2 weeks kind of thing. It's we have to sit there and we have to look
Yes.
at every single detail. So if you're working with Dreamers Together, once we get those pay stubs, we will sit there and we will look at every pay stub and we'll come up
Determine.
and we will make the math. And if you're telling us you're making $50,000, but when we're looking at the pay stubs and we're only coming up with $25,000, that's where we're like, well, we either have to combine income, find a joint sponsor. So there is a lot of details when we're trying to put these packets together. And these are all the little items that you will have to also make sure. And a lot of the reasons that people get RFEs is because they don't pay attention to all those little details. So very careful with that too. Go ahead, Faye.
I also want to know one more thing. That is correct, Ellie, because sometimes we do run into bumps as well. So now we have to figure things out. Maybe, individuals forget to disclose things. So please bear with us as we, navigate the process of prepping these packets, because not every packet is the same. It's just not every packet is just, an I-94, a legal entry, a spouse. Some individuals have different statuses. So, you really have to bear with us. And again, we may you know, have a bump here and there, but we figure it out, and just give us the time to figure it out. Um, you know, Especially with this new administration. I mean, they can find something wrong in the perfectly fine packet. So you really have to bear with
Okay.
us.
We have seen that.
Yeah, yeah. So and then I wanted to talk about one more thing. Okay, the scope of giving our viewers advice, but when we are submitting questionnaires to our clients, please, please, please make sure your address, your name, birth dates, all of that is correct, because we'll input all that in the forms and we check, we'll match up. Okay, we'll check names, a number, social security, but addresses, past addresses, we do not have information on. So always, always remember, even if you're prepping the packet by yourself, remember to accurately put in your information, addresses, and all of that. Okay, because we don't have any prior documentation to check any previous address, okay, or any previous employment. If you've been unemployed for more than 2 weeks, indicate that as well, that, because they want to know where you have worked in the last 5 years. Meaning, if you're submitting the packet next week, they're going to want to know where you've worked from August of 2020 to present, August of 2025, 5 years. Okay. Some people will just, some individuals will I've
to
seen it
say, I
happen
don't
where,
know.
yeah, some
I've seen a
individuals,
lot of them
or
that I
I've
don't
seen packet
know.
reviews where people will put in from 2021 to present. No, they're going to want to know from 2020 to
Yeah.
present where you have worked in the last 5 years. They want your full 5 years. Okay, so please be diligent when you're filling that information out. Okay, some people, I understand, like, you want to rush and you want to get it out and you don't remember. Sit there and think about where you've worked before 2021 and fill it in, because they need that information from you. Okay.
Right.
So the correct information will definitely go a long way in preparing the forms, and you know not having us stall, or even you'll sit there and stall as well on your own forms. So gather all that information first. 5-year history of where you've lived and where you've worked. Okay, not 2021, but as of August, because we're in August right now, so
Hmm.
as of August of 2020 to present. And if you have been unemployed for more than, let's say, 2 weeks, just note that unemployment. If you were a student and you were unemployed student, note that as well, because they want to know where you worked and where you went to school and where you've lived in the last 5 years.
Right. You want to make sure that the forms are completed as accurately as possible. One question that I see a lot here on the Facebook group is, well, it's asking for this information. Do I need to add it? Yes, try to complete the forms as best as you can, as thoroughly as possible. It does mention 2 day, 2 digit for month, 2 digit for day, 4 digit for years. So make sure that you are using the correct formats. And
Hmm.
I know we understand we're all trying to rush, we're all trying to get a green card, but all those little details gonna gonna determine, is your case gonna move fast because they
Yes.
have all that information, or are they sitting there and taking longer to look at your application because you did not submit all of it thoroughly and as accurately as possible. So,
Yeah.
you know, right now is not the time to kind of, just put some dates. You probably could have gotten away with it with the previous administration. With
Yeah.
this one, you want to make sure. And again, when in doubt, we do prepare adjustment of status packets. We do have a process for preparing everything. We do have a process to get all this information from you. So if you are interested in booking an appointment, you can go to our website. If you have something on your background and or you prefer to work with an attorney, please, please, please reach out to someone that is accredited, someone that is can represent you. Um, Stay away from notarios right now.
Yes.
Notarial fraud. You want to make sure that the person that's going to be representing you in this case, especially right now, they know that what they are doing and they can represent you legally. Anybody can fill paperwork out, but we don't know, can they fill it out correctly? We don't know. So again, just remember that.
Yes. I also want to note that if you've had any previous cases, please let the attorney that's prepping your case, let them know your history, because you don't want that previous case to come up at your interview and God forbid the officer finds some misrepresentation in there. So any previous cases that you've had, whether you'd come to us for an AOS consultation, we ask because we want to know. Um, we do thorough consultations because again, we want to get as much as information as we can to prevent, an issue. Um, if you don't know, you don't know. Obviously, a FOIA would be your best bet. But if you've had a past case where maybe a notary or someone else or an attorney has filed the case for you, might want to definitely bring that up if you have an attorney, moving forward, or if you come to us for consultation. It is very, very important that we know if you've had, not just us for your own stuff, even if you're prepping your packet, you have to know if you've had a past case and what exactly occurred with that case. Okay, was it denied? Was it rejected? Was there a deportation? Please, this is very, very important.
Yes. When in doubt, run a
Okay, so
FOIA, reach out to an attorney.
all right, so let's move on with the questions, Ellie. Hello, Gela. Have we seen many interviews? Um, I have. Um, I've had quite a few. Okay. Now, anyone in our Facebook group, please reach out. Let us know if you've had, an interview after responding to your 40 credit RFE, and let us know how that interview went. So the good news is they are moving in the right direction. They just have to really um, figure out why, figure out why the individuals are issuing these RFEs in error. But the officers are moving. Once they get that RFE and they see that you qualify for the 10 years and 40 credits, they do issue an interview. So yes, I have seen many interviews after responding to the RFE for the 40 credits.
I have 7. Have 7 of
Good.
them that their interviews coming up and we did the exemption. This is
Awesome.
whenever we first started like at the
Yeah.
beginning of the year and we were like, let me try this out, let me try that out. We tried everything and we were still getting, the RFEs, but I have 7 interviews coming up.
Great.
For my cases, it was about 4 to 5 months for
Great.
them too. So, Hela, I know that yours probably hasn't been that long. I
Yeah.
reviewed Gayla's packet, so that's why I remember her. So bear, hang in there.
Hmm.
Hopefully your time is coming, Gayla, for an interview. We're gonna
Okay.
go to this question. Elias Hernandez. If they ask in an AOS interview if I worked illegal, is it safe to say yes? So the question is, have you ever worked without employment authorization? And you can safely answer yes. I work
Yes.
to provide basic necessities such as food, shelter, clothing, education for my children. If you have children, that is it. You don't have to disclose more than that. You don't have to provide dates, you don't have to provide locations, and it gets forgiven um, with a petition, child to parent or spouse to spouse. Okay, it's going to get forgiven, but yes, you want to disclose truthfully. Okay, okay. We have a few more minutes before you go, so if you have questions.
And then in regards to the I-693, the medical, obviously a civil surgeon conducts the medical and they give you your sealed envelope. Before they seal that envelope, you can ask for a copy. Um, so I just want to, make a note of that, that you can ask for a copy of your medical exam before your civil surgeon goes ahead and seals that envelope, because once you submit that envelope with your packet, with your AOS packet, you cannot obviously open it up. Okay. It has to be delivered sealed. And again, as of December 2nd, 2024, any AOS packets that are going to USCIS need to have that I-693 sealed medical envelope with them. Okay, let's see. Hello, Johanna. Will it be an issue if my husband and I do our taxes separately? Married filing separately is not an issue. Just the only one thing with that is if you and your spouse combine, then obviously you have to, make sure that you have your tax return transcript and he has his tax return transcript in the packet along with your W-2s for that year.
Tax season is coming up. And I say coming up because I know some places they let you get like a loan on your taxes before you can technically file them, right? So we have a few months. You want to make sure that with um, tax season coming up, you want to make sure that if your case has not been approved yet, you want to make sure that you continue to file your taxes correctly. If you're married, you want to do married filing jointly.
Hmm.
If you or married filing separately, acceptable. I know some of these tax preparers, I don't know what tax school they go to, but I have seen a lot of mistakes on tax paperwork. And one of the things that I see is that these preparers, they'll put you down as single, head of household, unmarried, head of household. If you're married, you don't want to get in trouble with the IRS. You want to make sure that you're doing your tax filings correctly because this is something that you may need to present to USCIS, to immigration, leave alone the IRS problem that you could have, okay? That could be tax fraud, but that's a whole different story with IRS. Right now we're dealing with immigration. Tax season is coming up. Make sure you want to make sure that you are filing your taxes correctly for, 2025.
I've also seen one issue. It's very, very important to, when you go get your taxes done, make sure you have all your W-2s from all the jobs you've ever worked for that year, okay? Even if it was for like 500 bucks, you have to have all your W-2s with you so they can correctly prepare those taxes, okay? Because sometimes we'll sit here and we'll do the 864 and we're looking at the taxes and the W-2s and we're like, she's missing it. Oh, well, he or she is missing a W-2. If you're doing your taxes and you don't submit all your W-2s to your preparer, they can miss a W-2. So make sure when you're preparing your 2025 taxes, make sure you have all your W-2s with you so that the preparer can input all of that information correctly. All right, so let's go to the questions. Does it matter? Oh, hello, Johanna. Does it matter if my medical exam was done on an older form since I did my medical exam before the new form came out? Okay, so if your medical exam was signed before July 2nd of 2025, you can use the old form. As long as that medical exam was signed before July 2nd of 2025, okay? If it was not signed before July 2nd of 2025, you have to use the new edition date, okay? Of 12 to, oh no, that's the expired one, of 1/20/25. So if your old forms were signed before July 2nd of this year, you're fine. If they were signed after July 2nd of this year, take the new edition 1/20/25 and go back and have them fill it all out and sign.
We have some in Spanish.
Mhm.
Okay. Yes, Sael. Hola, ¿se puede mandar cheque personal para los pagos o cómo se le hace para hacer el pago con Money Order? Si van a estar mandando su paquete de ajuste de estatus, mi recomendación personal es Money Order, cheque personal o cheque de cajero. No les recomiendo tarjetas de débito o de crédito. A veces sus bancos o sus instituciones financieras no pueden hacer la transacción. Inmigración no puede cobrar, regresan todo el paquete, todo está abierto, documentos perdidos. Cheque personal, money order o cheque de cajero. ¿Ok? Ok, Rayo, Rayo, ¿cuándo va a venir a ser voluntaria para Dreamers Together? Dice, hola Elizabeth, buenos días. Una pregunta. Si a mi amiga le están ayudando con su caso, pero a ella ya se le venció su permiso de trabajo, ella metió su renovación con 6 meses antes de su vencimiento. Ella quiere saber si puede hablar a USCIS o solo la abogada porque le llama a su abogada en batalla para que le responda y lo único que dice es esperar a que responda. No ha recibido ninguna notificación y ella está con miedo porque pues ya lleva una semana que se le venció. Ok, la primera pregunta es, ¿ella tiene por lo menos un recibo que inmigración sí recibió? Porque también he visto casos donde a veces los abogados nunca envían las aplicaciones o las renovaciones y las personas están esperando mes tras mes, nunca reciben ni confirmación que inmigración. Lo primero es asegurarse que inmigración sí recibió. Segundo, si sí recibió inmigración, el caso de renovación de DACA están tomando ahorita más de lo normal y sí, su amiga puede efectivamente llamar directamente a inmigración y preguntar por su caso. No tienen que esperar a la abogada, ¿ok? So, déjenos saber, Rayo, a ver cómo le va con eso. This one. What do you think about this one, Picreta? You want to read it? You want me to read it?
Hello, Guillermo. Go ahead, Ellie. You can read it.
Okay. Can ICE deport me if they conduct a raid? I have DACA and pending VAWA. My employer is expecting a raise since they got audited by DHS.
We can't obviously we can't guarantee that nothing's gonna happen, especially right now in these unpredictable times. So I would say definitely reach out to one of our attorneys and have a consultation, let them know what's going on, and they could further assist you from there. But however, please keep DACA active. Make sure that if you have to renew. Make sure that your DACA is current.
I totally agree. In a perfect world, you shouldn't have any issues. But right
Yeah.
now, we're not living in a perfect world. And again, they're not really playing by the rules. Okay. So
And yeah, they clearly
just
don't
we want to
understand,
be.
DACA, delayed action for childhood arrivals. We all know what that means, but obviously right now they are going around that meaning of DACA.
Yes, I would say everybody has to be just very careful.
Yeah.
No drinking and driving, no domestic violence, no, please,
No.
please,
Seatbelt,
please. And
okay? Seatbelt yourself. Just all the little things, okay? Right now you want to, keep yourself out of trouble
One
by all
thing you want to
costs.
stay away from, and I don't know how we need to even say it for people to comprehend this, but firearms. Yes, you have a firearm in your house. My Second Amendment, well, they're not really respecting amendments right
Mm,
now. As a DACA recipient, as undocumented, no, you cannot be nowhere near a
correct.
firearm, even if it's in your house, even if it's in your car. You get caught with that, you're gonna be in deep trouble. Okay, so right now is we don't want to test them right now, right? So firearms, stay away from it. Well, can I go to shooting range? We see people fighting us left and right that they can do what they want. At the end of the day, yes, you can do what you wish. Our advice is stay away from shooting ranges, stay away from firearms. Something happens, you're going to be in trouble. We're
Yes.
already advising you beforehand. Stay out of trouble. Make sure that all the lights on your cars are working. Make sure you're doing your signals. Just we've seen a lot of stories, and you guys may have seen them too.
And a little tip, when you're doing your AOS case, and this is for anyone that does it on your own, submits it on their own, do not put any pictures in there that you are at a shooting range with your spouse because your spouse owns a gun, okay? Please, please, please do not do this, okay? Date night with spouse at a shooting range. No. Keep anything with firearms out, please. All right, let's
Pictures where you constantly have a beer in your hand,
yeah,
take those down, okay? We know people love drinks every once in a while. People may drink every day, but this is
mhm,
not something that you want to
exactly.
put there in USCIS or immigration to see. Okay, moving on.
All right, Ellie, in shipped, how about if I'm married and husband lives out of the country that is concert processing, okay? If you are a US citizen and you're gonna um, apply for your spouse, then that would be considered concert processing. And in that case, we have some great attorneys on board that can help you with that.
She said for taxes, but if I'm not mistaken, even if you're abroad, you can still file taxes dependent on you being filing as citizen of the US. But we
Oh,
don't really
okay.
do taxes, so
Oh,
for tax
one
questions, go ahead.
okay. One little tip. Um, you have to be careful. So, yes, if you live abroad as a U.S. citizen, you can still file taxes. It depends obviously if you do any work for the U.S. Um, you have to be careful if you are sponsoring your intending immigrant. Um, you know, just because you live abroad and you file taxes, you know, because you have maybe some work in the US, it doesn't necessarily mean your domicile is in the US, okay? Your domicile has to be in the US in order for you to fill out the I-864 and submit your tax information, okay? So petitioners live abroad all the time. You know, they they file for their spouses. Be careful when it comes to the I-864. You as a petitioner have to have your domicile in the US, okay? They're not going to take that income and be like, "Oh, he makes plenty of income to or he or she makes plenty of income to sponsor their intending immigrant." They want to know where you live. You can live in one of the islands associated with the US, and there's a territory in that island where they may not even recognize that your domicile is in the US. So, your best bet when you live abroad is to just get a joint sponsor because your domicile has to be in the US in order for that I-864 to, to be filled out correctly.
Yes, a lot. We actually, I think we would probably need, like you say, like all those questions, we probably need a lot more information to be able
Yes.
to determine,
This is just like an example.
yeah,
It's kind of like an example, okay? So, you know, I've lived abroad where I had to sponsor my spouse and I didn't even go through with my income because I was coming and going, but my domicile was in the US. It was more so in Macedonia at the time. And just to play it safe, I got a joint sponsor. Because why? Yes, I did have a job in the US, but I was living abroad more of the time, more than I was in the US. And just to play it safe, my attorney was like, let's just get a joint sponsor just to play it safe because if I look at how long you've lived abroad in the US, your domicile is literally in Macedonia. It's not in the US. So obviously your case in ship might not be the case, but I'm just letting you know examples. Make sure that when the petitioner is filling out the 864, make sure his domicile is in the US. Okay, he's not living in the US 20% and in another country 80%. You know what I mean?
thank you. Now, remember, we also do prepare the packets and we also have the AOS question session. If it's something that you're
Yes.
interested in doing the packet on your own and you have like some of, whose question it inship etcom. I think
Hmm.
I'm saying that correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not. But if you have like questions, we're not taking your case, but you're preparing your packet and you have a few questions to kind of finalize your packet. Hey, please go to our
Yes.
website, make an appointment, and we're more than happy to answer those basic questions. We'll ask maybe some questions to get clarification on your case. Again, it's not representation, but yes, we can answer those questions for you at one of our sessions as well.
And an example, okay? If you're living abroad 80%, obviously the US is not your domicile. These are just like examples. I'm giving you little bits, here and there, little tips here and there, because now why? Some of our viewers are like, you know what, I'm not sure. Let me book a general question session or a packet review. That way we can check, every case, no case is the same. We're obviously going to want to see documentation, and that way we'll let you know, a few more facts about your case. This is just, a little tip I'm giving you, or like an example I'm letting you know of, you know, what's considered a domicile on the 864, what country, and obviously it would be the US. Amending them. Yes. Okay. Hello, Johanna. So if they are your 2025 taxes, definitely get them amended, okay? Because on the I-64, they're definitely going to want the 2025 taxes.
24.
Uh, I'm sorry, 24. Yes. uh, so
Okay.
yeah, if they are your most recent taxes, definitely get them amended. If they are the previous ones, I wouldn't worry too much about it because again, on the I-64, they want the most recent taxes.
Hmm. Okay. Let's answer a few more and then we're gonna hop off. Oh, let's answer one last one and then we're gonna go.
All right, Ellie, you want to take this from Veronica?
Okay. It says, "Good morning. I have a question about the affidavit of support. My income has changed. My spouse's income has changed this year, which I believe is below the FPL, the
Federal
poverty
poverty.
guideline.
Hmm.
Hmm. Can my income be added with my husband's income? If you are employed and you get paid on a W-2 and you have valid employment authorization, yes, you can combine income with your spouse."
And
Let
just
me.
please keep in mind that even though you're combining income together, you still have to show proof of your current income as well. And the pay stubs come into play. So they're going to want your pay stubs as well.
mm, Let me get this one for Paola. It's de Visa T. Nosotros no tratamos Visa T. Para sus preguntas de Visa T y ver cuál le convendría mejor, yo le recomiendo un abogado. Okay. Um, let's see. Okay, Rayo. I'm kind of just hovering over them so we can go ahead and go because I
Yes.
think you have
An
appointments coming up.
appointment soon. Yes.
Okay, so Rayo, si no tiene un número de recibo, contacten a USCIS. Tuve un caso una vez que la persona que vino a mí para que les ayudáramos, había estado también con el abogado, ya tenían como 6 o 8 meses y sin ningún número de recibo. Contactamos a inmigración y nunca habían recibido nada. Entonces, lo bueno fue que el cliente decidió moverse, si no, ya hubiese casi perdido DACA. Necesitan contactar a USCIS y ellos le pueden dar esa información. And this one, you want to get this one, and this will be the last one.
Hello, Yazel. What options do we choose for the appointment to ask questions before sending the package? The general questions session. So, Ellie, would you like to take over? You can further explain to them where they can go on and
Mhm. So for the question session, you want to make sure that you select the general question session if you only have questions. But if you want us to actually review your packet, there is a packet review option. You'll have to send us your packet beforehand and we'll review everything. We'll make notes, which we'll go over during our 1 hour appointment. Okay. But I think that's it for our questions.
And then one more little thing, guys. When you guys do book, when you do book a packet review, please, please, please have your cover letter. The cover letter is so important. We can sit here, we can, review it and make notes on it. That way it helps you, right? When we're done, you have the cover letter. We've already noted the changes or, you know, whatever we needed to do to the cover letter. Because if you don't have a cover letter, that doesn't help us, but that's not going to help you either, okay? But if you have the cover letter with your packet, we can work on the cover letter. We can talk about it together. And then because the cover letter, it will help you put your packet together as well. So please, 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 when you're booking these packet reviews, cover letter. I've seen a lot of packets where we have no cover letter, and tax return transcripts from the IRS.gov website. Not the taxes, but the tax return transcripts is very, very important. Okay. All right. I think we are all set. Um, we might have one more and then we have to go. Let's see, Veronica. Thank you for answering my questions. I'm actually self-employed, a delivery driver. What that work to add my income with my husband's, if only W-2 employment? If you are self-employed and you do not get it, you a W-2 and you should not combine incomes ideally, okay? If your spouse doesn't make enough, just get a joint sponsor. Just avoid that whole situation.
Correct. Those are some really good questions today.
Yeah. Yeah, we covered quite a few, and we'll be back on next week.
Yes, so write your
All right.
questions down. We'll see you here at the same time next week. Goodbye,
All right.
everyone.
Bye bye. Have a great day.